Today I'm going to be making griddle scones, like Gran used to make. In fact, exactly like Gran used to make. Over the years growing up, I spent many a time alongside her, watching her do these scones. And the recipe over the years was burnt into my brain. And it was never written down. In fact, the only time it was written down was when I actually put it up on my website. This old friend is what Gran used to cook the scones and the pancakes on. The griddle itself is well over 100 years old, and it is fairly weathered, as you would expect. And well, I've looked after it as best I can. Over the years, it's served the family in many ways. Family, friends, and neighbours, and in some ways, it's brought people together. Come the time of year when we're cutting the peats, time of communions, when the bakes will be made on the griddle for people coming round or people going off, people coming home. A lot of happy and sad times as well. So yeah, I'm very impressed with being the holder of this griddle and to look after it. The recipe itself. In the bowl, I've got 550 grams self-raising flour. Now, when I said exactly the way Gran made it, it is exactly the way she prepared it, every process. Even though there's a couple of niggly things in the process which I will mention that it does work, but I don't want to change it. Not for the life of me. So, 550 grams self-raising flour, 125 grams of baking margarine. You can use butter. Into the dry as well, I've got 15 grams of caster sugar and 1 level teaspoon of salt. If you're going to use butter, use salted. It gives a much better texture, but just leave the salt out. And in with our fingers, and we just want to take our time. Just take our time. It's not like when in a professional kitchen when the baking has to be done. There's a host of other items on the board to be prepared, and the time restraints. So even today, it's just nice to go at my own pace. Usually have the radio on in the background. I usually have the radio on the background most days, to be honest. And I find there's more enjoyment in actually baking at home. There's no pressure, and there's a lot more satisfaction in it. So there we have it. I've just been rubbing it with my fingertips, and what we've got now is what they call breadcrumb stage. Put that to one side for one moment, and we're going to prepare our eggs. Just going to separate the eggs. I'm just going to whisk the eggs to a nice, just light peak. You can see how that's coming together. By hand, just as quick, without taking out a machine. I'm just going to use our wrist when we're whisking. I'm using a whole arm, you're just going to tire yourself out. Just a whisk. Got it about the figure of 8. Now to that, I'm going to add the yolks. I'm going to whisk them again, or as Gran used to call it, switch the eggs. Lovely colour. To that we want to add about 30 grams of golden syrup, so a good tablespoon. Now mix, and then with about 200 mils of milk, still nice, light and frothy. And now the messy part. Make a little well. All the mix in. And we want to just start going in from the edges and incorporating everything. You have it. Everything's now nice and mixed. You can see already how things are starting to happen in the bowl. Starting to sort of come together, sort of expand, and little air pockets are starting to develop. Now, to form the scones, I'm using this chopping board today. Usually be on the water top, but seeing the cooker is over on the other side of the room, I can transfer this over to the cooker. So I'm going to divide the mix into two, rough two. Two stages. I'm going to take a generous amount of flour, A, it's going to stop it from sticking, and B, when this hits the griddle, it's going to give them a nice finish. So we want to take half the mix straight onto the water top. And with floured hands, just want to shape that. You want to be gentle with it. Even though the griddle scones, not to be confused with the light oven scones, and these have got more of a, they stand out more. So we start with a circle, we'll finish with a circle. Just be gentle with it and keep it moving so it doesn't stick. Again, same on the top, generous with the flour. No need for a rolling pin. I remember Gran had one of these plastic sheets you roll up, and all the dimensions and everything on it. I often wondered, really? But I can see in some ways how it could come in handy. So we want that with a thickness about an inch, just under the inch. Okay. There we have it. And now with a sharp knife, again just lightly floured, we'll divide should get about 8 scones out of this. There we have it. Now we'll get the griddle on, get it to the right temperature, and start griddling the scones. Now for cooking the scones, I've got the griddle on the largest ring. I've got it in a low to medium heat, because what we want to do is we want to get the scones on there. I want them nice and coloured. We don't want them cooking too quickly and raw, so we just want that nice balance. If we look at the scones as they are just now, it's been a few minutes, and you can see the slight rise in them already before they even hit the griddle pan. So our method of starting off with a circle is going to go into a circle again. So flour side down, to the griddle. As you can see, I was never good at drawing circles. So they're going to take about 4 to 5 minutes on either side. We'll just have a wee peek at them, sort of halfway through, just to see how they're getting on. Now, it's at this moment, when I was younger, that even the days I was involved from the beginning of the cooking process, with the mixing and the cooking, there were times when I'd be coming home from school and you knew coming up the drive that with the smell of the scones in the air, you knew something special was lying ahead. So we'll give them 4 to 5 minutes and then we'll turn them over. Now the scones have come off the griddle. What I've done is, as they've come off, I've just covered them in a clean dish towel, just like Gran used to do. Now, on the second half of the batch, what I've done is, I've just made them that little bit bigger, rather than, I don't want to use the word daintier, because dainty shouldn't be associated with a griddle scone. I mean just a little bit bigger, because remember, these scones are really nice, with even just a slice of cheese in there, some butter and cheese. So I've made these ones just that little bit bigger. But I'm going to go back in time, and again, the room just now is filled with the aroma of the griddle scones, which is very, very important to me. And we'll just cut one open. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And of course, it has to be butter at room temperature, because we used to keep the butter in the larder. And you're probably looking at this going, gee whiz, a lot of butter. It's a treat at the end of the day. And you can see how the butter is actually now starting to melt into the scone. And again, a memory for me would be the golden syrup, which wasn't in the squeezy bottle, it was out of the tin. Although one time Gran finished up the syrup and the only thing that was left in the cupboard was some treacle. Now for any child, the idea sounded really nice, and I remember that day sitting at the back of the house with a warm scone with lashings of treacle. I tell you now, that does not work for me. So there we have my griddle scones with lashings of butter and golden syrup. Give them a whirl. So easy to make, so delicious. Enjoy.